Welcome to Literary Lark. This is the first episode of, I guess, the new video podcast version of the show. And we got some pretty exciting stuff on this episode. We're going to be talking about Wattpad today. And I've got my first guest on the show, so it's pretty awesome. Fellow fantasy sci-fi author Emery Squara is on the show today. Emery, say hello.
Hey, everybody.
Great to have him on. So basically, as I said, we're looking at Wattpad today and how just going to talk through some different aspects of Wattpad, how it can be beneficial to independent authors, and having used it myself and Emery having used it even more, he'll provide some really great insight. But first, let's get to know Emery. So Emery Squara, he's written a few. Well, you've written one book, correct, Emery? Published one?
Yeah, yeah, that's correct.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about that book that you've got out right now?
Well, it's called Numinous. It is the first of a trilogy, and it's an urban fantasy young adult novel about a young girl who has kind of grown up in a broken home, and she finds out that she has special powers to kind of control people. And she also is from another world, so she's desperately trying to get to that other world, and has to kind of go through some things to get there. So that's kind of the setup, I'd say.
Okay, sweet. And you've got you've got a sequel in the works, don't you? It's part of a series, correct?
Yeah, exactly. So it's a planned trilogy. I do have a sequel in the works right now that I'm writing. So it's just kind of getting started right now. I've got like 5 chapters.
Okay, so just starting out, but hey,
Just starting out, yeah.
Nothing. I haven't started my sequel in my book, so there you go. Sweet. Well, could you just give us a little brief background just on your writing career, how you got into writing, and how long you've been doing this whole indie thing?
Well, I started writing in high school. That's at least the first time that I actually thought about writing. But it was awful, like most writers. But I didn't start thinking about actually doing writing full time, or writing as like a career, or writing as like a profession, or what have you, until probably middle of college. It started to become more of a thought for me, just because I'd been doing a lot of short story writing. And by the time I got out of college, it was becoming more of a reality. And this book, Numinous, had been in the back of my mind for quite a long time, but I hadn't really written any of it until after college.
Okay. Awesome. So, and besides the Numinous series, which is Dirge of Rude Reveal, correct? That's the name of the
Yeah,
series.
yeah,
Yeah. You've got some other projects in the works, I assume. I mean, we've kind of talked a little bit about that. Got some short
yeah.
stories and some other sci-fi works. That, you're just
Everything's in
waiting
the
to
pipeline.
yeah,
Just
you're
not
just
enough
getting
time.
all this stuff from the pipeline. You're waiting to just bombard on everybody, right?
Yeah, if only I could have more time.
That is all of us.
Yeah.
So, um, you have been featured on Wattpad, which is kind of what I want to get into next here. Wattpad, if for those of you that don't know, is essentially a social platform for writers where you can put your works out there, whether it's short stories, novellas, novels, anything really. I think it kind of runs the gamut on genres. Would you say that's fair, Emery? It's pretty broad, right?
Yeah, it's very broad,
Okay.
for sure.
Yeah, so it's kind of a sort of a testing ground for putting maybe something you're working on, whether it's in first draft or in final draft, and really it's people can follow you, sort of like Twitter, uh, keep track of what you're posting, which new chapters of a book. So it's really kind of it's a great little setup for getting kind of the social activity of writing and getting people to um, really interact with your work. I mean, what's been your experience on Wattpad with the social aspect, Emery?
I mean, when I first started, it's actually kind of funny. I started a long time ago when I first heard about it, and I didn't really do much with it. I just kind of created an account and kind of peeked around, and I put it away for a few years, and then I kind of always knew about it, and I just was like, no, I'm not going to deal with this right now. I'm just going to focus on writing, and I I think it was last year, yeah, that I started to jump back in. I think it was like February of last year, and the social aspect was it was it actually was pretty fluid. It wasn't a lot of work necessarily.
Okay.
Usually, I mean, you do it like you would normally any other thing. You just get in and start meeting new people. Usually it starts by reading people's books and making comments and talking with people. Um, and from there, you just start meeting, a lot of great writers, a lot of great readers, and yeah,
And I remember when we've talked about this, as far as like when you initially had started on Wattpad, it was much different as far as how easier it was to kind of get exposure for your works. Is that fair?
yeah. Because I remember when I first started, it seemed like it was more like a MySpace style,
Okay.
and then it's evolved so much over the years, and they did a lot more now, or at least like last year and now, to help stories get a lot more exposure. Like they have different categories, like what's hot, or well, usually the better way to get noticed is through what's new, or um, what's the other one? Drawing a blank at the moment for that one. But yeah, there's different categories they have to help you to get your works noticed for sure.
Okay. And there's also, besides actually commenting on people's stories, different authors' works, there's some forums as well that are genre specific, correct?
Yeah, lots of forums. And sometimes it's not just by genre, but a lot of them are definitely by genre.
Okay. My experience on there has been, for the social aspect, I've actually been able to connect with a lot of good readers as well as writers. Obviously, we're both on there, so we've connected on there. But it's it's been good. I've had probably one or two readers that have become beta readers, and in a way, I mean, they're sort of all, you could consider them beta readers in a way.
Oh yeah.
At least if you're just kind of putting out your first draft or maybe your second, maybe
Yeah,
not
and
your
that's pretty
first.
common. Most people on Wattpad are putting out their first drafts, and that's the culture. Usually you're not putting up like, an edited piece. Um, and so yeah, you depend a lot on other people's like feedback, and it can just be little things like, oh, hey, you missed a period or something, you made a typo,
Yeah,
or it can be like them actually commenting on, the story itself. Usually it's just praise. The nice thing about Wattpad too is that I haven't really met a lot of trolls. I mean, I know they're out there, and I know that they're everywhere on the internet. But at least for Wattpad, it seems like they have a pretty healthy culture, which was really nice because when you're a writer, you can get really sensitive about your work. So
for
it's it
sure.
was it's always been nice and healthy. The comments that I've gotten.
Yeah, I would echo that. I think that a lot of the people are genuinely trying to help, trying to provide constructive criticism. There's also people that just really enjoy the work and just kind of want to read whatever you put out there. I've certainly run into that quite a few times, which is really rewarding as a writer. I mean, if if you're looking for that um, feedback really quickly, then you definitely get it once you're at a certain level of exposure. And maybe that can be the next thing we talk about. What kind of when you started on Wattpad, how did you, I guess, increase your audience or your exposure to your work? How did that process go?
I guess the first thing is just try really, really hard to put out like the best stories that you can. I think making that first impression, because there's just so much competition, if you will, and just, I mean, not even competition, but just so much out there. There's so many stories. It's hard for people to, distinguish the difference between, one story from the next, unless you're in one of those higher categories, like or higher rated categories.
Right.
So, impressing people right away is key, and I think that that did help. I remember there was a few of my stories that I put up there where people were really excited about them. Um, so I think that's important. And but I think also you really just need to connect with people, and that just means reading their works and talking with people, whether on the forums or yeah, just on their profiles or messaging them, and just asking them questions and talking with them. That's kind of how I got in, uh, got a little bit more exposure anyway.
Okay. And so going off of something you said on related to categories, would you say there are genres that do better on Wattpad than, let's say, like, on Amazon or in other areas? What would you say about that?
Yeah, absolutely. There's I mean, it's hard to say for sure. I don't have the statistics or the analytics there. I'm sure the people at Wattpad could tell you exactly what genres are the highest, grossing or whatever in terms of reads. From my own experience, from what I see, it seems like romance is up there, and a lot of like like teen romance and a lot of teen romance genres like werewolves, vampires, fan fiction. Those things are pretty popular.
Okay.
Um, but fantasy gets, they have a nice niche for fantasy too. So there's definitely fantasy readers there. I'd say the lowest end, if you wanted to, look at what usually doesn't get too many reads, is like nonfiction. Nonfiction gets good reads if you're going to write about Wattpad. I've noticed there's a lot of books about Wattpad, and if you're just getting started on Wattpad and you want some information on how to get, how to get the ball rolling, there's actually a lot of really good books on Wattpad about how to do Wattpad. But other than that, nonfiction doesn't really get, too many reads, and general fiction doesn't really get too many reads. So it's really more about fantasy, romance, a lot of fantastical type stories.
Okay.
Because really, the main, I'd say the main demographic on that website is teens. Um, yeah, the huge majority of readers are teens.
Yeah, and that's what I found too, that a lot of the people I've connected with are younger. I mean, they're into kind of that young teen kind of books. So things that we see even now, that are popular in those categories of young adult or teen fiction. I would echo that. Yeah, the romance is definitely popular. It's popular everywhere. So,
Yeah.
um, so moving to you were able to. So there are categories as we've discussed, but there's also certain authors that get featured. So this is where you go on the website, homepage, and you see at the top navigation bar, you're going to see different authors' works displayed pretty prominently,
Yeah.
um, as featured works, and you've been able to get into that category and featured on the front page of the site. So tell us a little bit about how you were able to do that, and if it's something that can be replicated for other authors.
Yeah. So the first thing you need to do is finish your book. And I think, and backtracking a little bit, I don't know if that's true anymore, because I've seen books unfeatured where they weren't finished. I think
Interesting.
so I almost wonder if there's two ways to do it. I mean, the way that I did it was I finished my book. And if you go on their website and look to see their guidelines for being featured, one of them is that you need to have a completed book. I almost wonder though, if you have a book that's super, super popular and and that the Wattpad has noticed and that they enjoy, they might just put it on the featured category too. I'm not sure because I know a few books that were not completed, but they were featured. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, I would say finish your book first, and make sure that it's edited as best as you possibly can edit it. The first thing the Wattpad people are going to do, the Wattpad people, I don't know what you're going to call them, the Wattpad
The
editors,
establishment.
the Wattpad editors, maybe that's a better term. They're gonna, they're definitely gonna look at grammar and make sure that it's at least decently edited. That doesn't necessarily mean it needs to be professionally edited because there are a lot of works that, I mean, Wattpad is just not that kind of a website.
Yeah.
It's a lot more about rough drafts and just getting your stories out there. But they want to make sure that it's at least decent editing. And from that point on, if you've got a completed book and you think that it will do like really well on the website, you think the editors will like the story, go ahead and you can send it to their email address. I think really all you got to do is just send them a link. I'm sure they'll be able to find you. Usually it takes like 3 months, I think. It's like 2 or 3 months for them to get back to you, whether or not they'll feature your book. But I'd say more than likely, if you get rejected, it's probably because of they just didn't think your story was good enough, unfortunately, or because your grammar was too horrible. um,
Good to
so
know.
yeah, two of the probably bigger reasons for any kind of rejection of any story.
Yeah.
But it does seem like I mean, they don't pick. I mean, in terms of genre, like if you have like a general fiction genre and general fiction just in general doesn't do well on Wattpad, like in terms of reads, like a number of people reading it, um, they'll pick that too. Like any genre can be featured.
Hmm.
Uh, it's just a matter of whether or not they find your story compelling. I've heard that when I sent mine in, when they messaged me, they said the story spread around the office like wildfire and people were reading it like a ton. And that's basically what caught people's interest, was that everybody was kind of like really into the story. So if you can wow them with your story, then you've got a pretty good shot.
Awesome. It's really must be nice to hear. Not only that they're looking at it for the editorial reasons, but that it's catching on, just within the internal workings of Wattpad.
Yeah, I mean, of course, like any story that you're writing, if it's getting attention, it's a cool feeling.
Yeah. How, how much would you, and you may or how much would you say cover art plays into, because I mean you got some really nice cover art. I mean it stands out. So I'm just wondering, did you get any feedback from the Wattpad editorial team about that, or any idea how significant that is in getting featured?
Yeah. They say, first of all, they say that the cover art is really important, like that you need to have at least a decent cover.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I've seen some pretty basic cover art, if you will, on the featured site. So I'm not sure if that plays a huge factor. It probably just means like have something that isn't just generic, like that
Yeah.
that they like, because they have their own book cover tool. They probably just don't want you to be using that. If you can have something that makes their front page look good, because your book is going to be on the front page of the website where like millions of viewers are going to see it. So
Right.
they want the website to look nice. So probably just, yeah, I would say, but at the same time, I mean, everybody judges a book by their cover, regardless of the proverb that everyone hears when they grow up: don't judge a book by their cover. So have a good book cover. Absolutely. I've heard that's a huge factor into my book, is everybody says how much they love the cover, and it draws them into the story. So you gotta have a good book cover. It's huge.
Totally. Yeah, I would. I mean, just in general, you need to have a good book cover, but obviously, if they're looking for a good story, then having a great cover just sells it that much easier for visitors to the website. And just so there's no confusion, Wattpad, I mean, this is all free. This isn't, you log in, make an
Yeah.
account, and you're able to, so you're putting your work out there for free for people to read, to get feedback, to essentially grow an audience within Wattpad. So um, even though it is free, it's still important to, because I've seen their book cover tool. It is very basic.
Yeah.
I think I've seen maybe a dozen stories with some of the similar cover
Yeah.
art that Wattpad's tool provides. But yeah, so so after getting featured, how did that? Because Wattpad tracks reads and people that
Right. Like YouTube,
yeah,
like YouTube's
views.
not reads, but it's views. But yeah, it's like the same idea.
Right. And when you put your work on there, it's uh, you do it by chapter. So you add a new chapter, and that can be one read. If someone reads the first chapter, then that counts as a read, and then move.
Well, and in my case, it was parts. I
Okay.
actually cut up my novel into parts, so even chapters are spliced into sometimes 2 parts, sometimes 4 parts. It just depended on when I thought it was a good time to end that part of the chapter. They
Yeah.
usually say, uh, and when I say they, just everybody around Wattpad, you don't want to have too long of chapters because people have short attention spans and they just want a really quick read, like a part and not have to you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some people have disputed that and they said it doesn't really matter, but I think it's probably true. I mean, I know personally I do appreciate that when I'm reading a story in Wattpad that there's parts that I can kind of know I can do a quick read and then move on or whatever. Because usually I'm reading on the bus when I'm going into work, and
Yeah.
I love just being able to just really quick go through something.
Mhm.
So yeah, in my case, it was parts.
Yeah, and I've done the same with my book. Whenever I thought it was maybe the chapter was too long, and I didn't want it to be longer than maybe 4 pages on the Wattpad site, because there's a little arrow it gets you. It'll say 1 out of 4, and I think that probably might have some kind of a psychological effect. Somebody's on, like you said, on the bus or commuting, and looking at their mobile phone and just kind of pulling up the Wattpad app and wanting to get a quick read in, then if they see, you're on page 1 of 25, it's probably not going to give them warm fuzzies about finishing on
Yeah.
their 20-30 minute commute on the bus or whatever. So um,
Well, and it's
I
all
would,
about getting votes because every part has a chance for people to vote for your story or your part.
yeah,
And so if your chapter is too long, the chance of someone voting for it is much slimmer than if you just have like a quick part. Then they can vote for that part, and then you can have more votes on your story. So it's just a strategy thing, really, more than anything else. And votes, like we haven't really mentioned, kind of like likes, essentially,
yeah.
help you get more visible because the more votes you get within a day, the higher on the ranking system you get. So you want to get as many votes as you can.
Right. Yeah. So your stories are ranked by the genre.
Which
Let me
now
check the
is
genre.
only one genre. They used to have 2 genres, and they've switched that to one. So I
Okay.
don't know whether or not I don't really see much of a difference. They say it's supposed to be better. They're emphasizing tags more,
Okay.
but I don't know. I don't know if I see much of a difference.
Okay. Yeah, there's been, I mean, they're constantly updating things on Wattpad. And
Yeah.
I think the last time I was on there, I mean, they've got some pretty neat analytics on, just regions, where your readers are. There might be, I think on mine, I've got, maybe 4 or 5% of my readers are in the Philippines. And I thought that was kind of
Right.
cool. And others
They're
around the
everywhere.
world.
The readers are all over the place.
Yeah.
They're all over the world. You get readers from, yeah, it's crazy some of the readers that I've seen from different countries. And it's really cool to know that like people from all over the world are reading your story. And like that tool in general is really cool. When I first started Wattpad, they didn't have that.
Yeah. I didn't have the
I think that was
registry.
fair. I think that was pretty new. I think they just started that within the last 4 or 5 months. I
Hmm.
don't know, but So yeah, they have a lot of cool analytical tools, good things to kind of get to an understanding of what, what's working for your book.
Yeah. So once you were featured, how did that affect votes, reads? Was it pretty dramatic? Like,
Yeah, it was huge. Absolutely. I mean, you kind of go from being like mildly, like you're doing decently well to like you're in a completely different solar system of reads and votes and popularity because they put you in the forefront. They're basically like putting your book and putting you in the front of their page, which gets millions of reads, like millions of views or millions of people going to their website every day or every month or whatever it is.
yeah,
So yeah, I mean, you're totally put into this whole new place on the website. And so you're getting comments every day. Your comments are skyrocketing. Your votes are skyrocketing. Everything's basically just blowing up. So being featured is a really big deal, and it does put you in a completely different category in like the Wattpad social sphere. But I mean, at the end of the day, you're just like you're just like any other author, just trying to have people read your book. So
yeah,
but it's a great experience, and it's a great thing to be, to be picked. And
mhm.
it's really cool to see people interact with your book. That was the thing that was the greatest part, was just to see that many people enjoying and interacting with my book.
Yeah. That is cool. I mean, it's one of the reasons we do what we do, right? I mean,
Right.
it's
Well, and like most authors, they don't usually get that. I mean, even published authors or even any author that isn't on Wattpad or any kind of social sphere, maybe they get emails or contacted on Twitter, but most authors aren't getting that kind of feedback on their work. And
yeah,
so it's definitely a different environment, but it's really cool.
yeah, totally. And I would agree. I mean, it's really awesome to see. I mean, it's one thing to get a review on Amazon for your book. I mean, but compare that to getting a chapter by chapter. I mean, we've had readers that will comment on each chapter. They'll say, "Oh,
Right.
I love this scene. This scene was awesome," or this character is just really connecting with this character, or whether they're going scene part by part in your novel and giving you constructive criticism or whatever it might be. Whereas, if you're looking at just a Goodreads review or an Amazon based on the totality of the work. So, I mean, even though that is good and it's nice to get the feedback, Wattpad does offer something that's even more comprehensive in some ways and can get even deeper. Uh,
Right. It gets a little more detailed, and
yeah,
you can get those like sometimes I would laugh because I'd see like I got like a comment on one of my chapters, and I'd see like on one of the I knew what chapter it was, so I was like, okay, here we go. Let's see what they have to say. And then I see like in big caps like the word no, but they stretched it out like with all like tons of O's. So it's just things like that. Like you just start laughing because like what they're feeling, or you kind of expect it because it's just such a pivotal part of the story.
right.
But it's
Yeah,
cool to see other people like actually, feeling that and experiencing that. Um, I mean, it's also sometimes, and maybe I might be a little masochistic about it, but sometimes too, sometimes I do enjoy just seeing people like hate my story. And I mean, sometimes, I mean, it does hurt. I'm not going to say it doesn't, but at the same time, like I've told people I'd rather people either like it or hate it than just be like, meh. Like if I
yeah,
see somebody who's just like, well, whatever, which I have seen, I've got the whole gambit. I've got the whole
yeah,
thing of people either liking it or hating it, or there've been a few that have just kind of been like, well, wasn't really into it. But that's the one that gets me, is the people who say they weren't into it. Because for me, that means I didn't really do my job. It's like I didn't get them to feel something, and so
yeah.
um, yeah. So, but it's cool to see like whether or not what people are doing with your work, rather than just a manuscript on your computer that's not getting read at all.
Yeah, exactly. No, yeah, I mean, any way you can get your name out there and kind of make an impact, I think is good. So it definitely offers that. So we've kind of covered, I think, quite a few of the pros of Wattpad. You kind of get some exposure out there, get your work read, get some feedback. maybe even build kind of an audience in your niche. What would you say, from your perspective, are some of the cons, some of the things that maybe Wattpad needs to improve?
I mean, that's a toughie. I guess I would say the nice thing is that they have really improved the website. If we had this conversation 6 months ago, or maybe even like 7, 8 months ago, I'm not sure. What month is it? I don't really.
Today.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, so it's like, yeah, if we had this conversation like 6 or 7 months ago, whenever they hadn't changed the website, I probably would tell you the website because there's a lot of things that just were very clunky and hard to, navigate. It wasn't super user friendly.
Hmm.
But recently, I mean, they had some good things going for it, but recently they've drastically changed it. And I know there's been a lot of pushback. Some people haven't been big fans of it, but I would say that's going to happen anytime you change things. People are going to
Right.
always be upset about it. I
Yeah.
actually enjoy it. I think I really like how sleek it is. It's become a lot more sleek. It seems like it's a lot more user friendly. And I actually had the experience of being able to do some beta testing with the website for them. So that was kind of fun to be able to help them, give them feedback on that. And a lot of other authors did too. That was also a cool thing about Wattpad. They gave a lot of authors the ability to beta test the site. And so that was cool. I mean, and it was the new site, beta test the new format that they were making.
Okay. Which has
So
been rolled out since then, right? And
so
then
it's been rolled out. It's pretty much, I think it's all done. I think now it's the new site's up and it's up and running. So that's not a con necessarily anymore. I think it's pretty good. I mean, I guess though, some people have mentioned, and I've actually been a little irritated with it, is the idea they have started putting ads within the story, and that was
okay.
kind of controversial. I remember seeing on the forums a lot of people were upset because all the stories are free, and there's a lot of either big indie authors out there or even just published authors,
Hmm.
like Brandon Sanderson and R.L. Stein and all these different big named authors. It's kind of nuts, but they have ads on these works, and so it's kind of like we're getting, they're making money off of our stuff, but we're not able to make money off of it. So that was kind of the argument.
Okay.
So I'd say right now that would probably be a slight con, that we're not able to
Mhm.
make any money off the website or off our stories if we wanted to make money off of the stories.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of authors on there would really benefit from that, especially indie authors who, like, they could, whether it's people have to pay up front or people have to pay for the rest of the content, or I'm not even sure how they would do it, but some kind of program, kind of like YouTube, where they have partnership programs that they can, where YouTube channel people can can do they can make money off of their videos.
Yeah, and I think that would just be like affiliate links. So like, every time, someone's on Numinous and then they see these ads for different authors, every time they
Right.
click because they're on your story, you would kind of get like, a percentage of the click, or, kind of get
Yeah.
a kickback, even though it's going to a different story or whatever. Because
Yeah.
this kind of has come up with, recently Goodreads did this. I say recently, but it was probably a few months ago, where the same thing occurs if you're on an author's page on Goodreads and or on their book page, and you see like a little ad in the corner that's for another book. So it's
Oh
kind of
yeah.
like, you're distracting someone that's viewing that page to some other work, and it
Yeah.
doesn't really benefit the author, who doesn't probably want their competition on the page. So I can see how that is controversial, and obviously it'd be nice if there were some kind of affiliate program where you'd be making you know even a small percentage of the ad revenue on your book. So
And
um,
I've heard in interviews in the past that it's not like they hadn't thought of it. My guess is that that they've thought of it.
yeah,
I don't really know why they're not putting it through. Maybe it's just a pretty big. It could be a big, hurdle for them because with YouTube you have Google as your backup. You
Right.
know and so Google is like this powerhouse that they can probably just whip that stuff up in no time.
Hmm.
Whereas with Wattpad, I mean, they are a smaller company. They probably don't have the infrastructure to just snap their fingers and have a whole affiliate program. So I don't know. That's my guess, but I have read in interviews where the CEO, I think it was, said that they were like that was at least a goal of theirs. They wanted to have something like that. So I don't know if that still is their goal,
Hmm.
but it would be pretty cool. It would be a good feature, and I think it would draw more authors, and I think it would up the content quality.
Hmm.
So
Totally.
yeah.
So regarding like the future of Wattpad, where did you see it in maybe another year or two? Do you see maybe more of an affiliate program coming into the picture? Maybe something. I know I've heard things along the lines of because this is kind of serialized content. You've got different parts. Your book is kind of all divided up into all these different parts, where you would have something like first six parts are free, and then you pay $1, and then you get access to the rest. I mean,
Right.
what do you think? What do you think's the future?
I sure hope so that that's what they want to do. And I'm sure a lot of authors agree. I mean, I don't see why not. It's not like you have to force to do something like that. I'm sure readers would be a little bit upset maybe because the idea is the whole thing is free and like for the readers aspect, their argument is this isn't Amazon, this isn't YouTube. This is a place where you're just sharing your stories and that's it. Like it's not
Yeah.
supposed to be some kind of a way to make money.
Hmm.
But I mean, I guess from my angle, if you want to support the art and the content that you're enjoying, I mean, I don't know. I think that's the best way is monetary. And I mean, if you want to support the authors that you enjoy, monetary support is the best way to do it. And so I don't know. I guess I would say, yeah, that would be really cool if in the future, and I would hope that they would have some kind of a, pay per part or whatever you want to do, or even just an affiliate program through the advertisements.
Hmm.
The future, I'm not really sure exactly. I mean, I'm guessing Wattpad's going to be around for quite a while. They're huge. I mean, they've been around. They got in really early, and I think that's probably why they're so successful. But I mean, I think also they do a really good job of keeping in touch with the readers and with their authors, and trying to make sure that the community is growing. And
Hmm.
so I think Wattpad will be around for a while. I think there's a lot of websites that are nipping at their heels, seeing that this is becoming a really popular and attractive type of social media. Um, I mean, like we had talked about earlier, there's RightOn from Amazon. Amazon's jumped into
Yeah.
that game. And then there's another one called Tableau, which is basically the same thing. Like both RightOn and Tableau are kind of the same idea. And then there's some other websites, but they don't really seem to be, they've been around even probably longer than Wattpad, like fanfiction.net.
Okay.
And I think there's some other websites, but they're not like it doesn't seem like they're as sophisticated
Okay.
in terms of their programming and the style and the design.
Hmm. Yeah. And before we got on the show, you and I, Emery, were discussing this about RightOn. RightOn seems to be the one that's probably going to be the bigger contender here as far as really pushing Wattpad. And competition is good. I mean, obviously, if RightOn is going to
Yeah.
come up with something to differentiate itself from Wattpad that might be attractive to authors and readers, then that could be a game changer and possibly push Wattpad to do something to compete. I mean, I haven't. What's your thoughts on Right On? I know that you haven't really. Have you put your stuff up on there?
No, I signed up, but when I was just signing up, it was in beta testing. So I just didn't really get into it. Too busy writing, right?
Exactly.
No, yeah.
Funny how that works.
Yeah. Yeah, so I just didn't really, I looked at it a little bit, but I didn't really do much with it. But I mean, like, I just looked at it today because we were talking about it. So it
Yeah.
looks really good. It looks a lot better than what I had seen before. So they obviously had worked out the kinks. I'd say if RightOn institutes, and maybe they already have, I haven't even looked at it, but if they institute any kind of a pay program, whether it be through affiliate or through like parts,
Mhm.
then that's gonna definitely be a big deal, and probably scare a lot of authors away from Wattpad, because I mean that's really what a lot of the bigger indie authors want, is to be able to make money off of their work. I mean, and why wouldn't you? You can't blame them for that.
No.
So we'll see. I don't know. I'll have to look a little bit more into RightOn. I've mostly been on Wattpad,
Yeah.
so uh, a Tableau that I've seen isn't. I don't really know if that's. I know I've get updates because I'm on Tableau. I haven't put any of my stories on there either. It looks like they're trying to keep changing things and make it better. It looks like a decent like style. Like the design of the website seems
Yeah.
nice, but I just don't see any kind of. It seems like it's still kind of in the starting phases. Like they're still trying to get a good community growing.
Okay. Yeah, I've been on Right On a few times, and when it was in beta testing, and it was definitely had a ways to go. But recently, when I've checked it out, it's come a long way. I think it's got a lot of the features that you're going to find in Wattpad, a lot of
Yeah,
familiarity with
yeah,
what Wattpad's doing. Um, but I think I feel like I received an email from them recently about some new feature that, I mean, I'm drawing a blank as to what exactly it was, but I remember thinking, well, that's new. That's not something that Wattpad is doing, and I think it was kind of a social sharing feature or something, to get people that aren't on Right On to come on to, like, kind of like an invite. Kind of like LinkedIn has kind of invites for people that aren't on
yeah,
LinkedIn, and you can get them on. So something of that nature. Uh, but it'll be interesting. I know that Amazon is a juggernaut in the book industry, so
yeah.
whether they're going to push a paid program for authors, or for some features that readers wouldn't otherwise get on Wattpad, will remain to be seen, I guess. But interesting stuff anyway.
The only thing I could think of is that because Amazon makes so much money from ebooks and such, there's not a lot of incentive for them to do it because they
Yeah,
have so many indie authors already on
yeah,
their Amazon publishing site.
yeah.
So unless their website becomes super popular, I can't see them wanting to push that just yet.
Hmm. Yeah, it's true.
But it's nuts because Amazon owns Goodreads, and now they have the Right On thing. So they're definitely. I mean, they're so big in the publishing industry now. It's you can't really escape the
No,
Amazon.
you really can't escape
Yeah,
that. You can't. But I mean, like I said, I think it's good that there's a competitor out there, and
yeah,
if anything, it'll push Wattpad to innovate and do something new that maybe we're not even discussing here. That might be a cool feature, or
yeah,
better way to get
absolutely.
readers. So, well, I think we're running up on time here, Emery. So, where can people find you and connect with you?
I'm everywhere. I'm all over. You can find me under every rock, behind every corner. No, emerysquara.com is my website. Go there. I have free stories there. I have free stories on wattpad.com/emerysquara. I'm on Twitter /emerysquara. You can email me, emeryxsquara@gmail.com. Yeah, I'm on Facebook. I don't use it too often, but I'm on Facebook if you want to like me. Absolutely. I'm on Amazon. Go ahead, and I think you can follow authors on Amazon. And I'm on Goodreads, and I actually really enjoy Goodreads as well as Wattpad. So go ahead, like me, friend me, add my book to your your bookshelf. That'd be cool.
Awesome. Yeah, and I'll put up links on the show notes to Emery's website, and all the different places that you can find him. Emery and I are pretty close off, just not on the show. I mean, we've gotten to know each other pretty well, and we'll probably see him on a few more times, weighing in on some more stuff. Maybe we'll have a Goodreads episode. What do you think? Should we cover
Let's
Goodreads?
cover every website. We'll just go
We'll,
down the
we'll,
line. Yahoo, Facebook.
yeah.
We'll get the big ones, and
We'll get acquainted with RightOn,
yeah,
and then we'll actually have something interesting to
yeah,
say about it.
totally. Maybe yeah, we'll do that next.
Awesome. Well, everybody, thank you so much for tuning into this episode on Wattpad, and thank you, Emery, for being on the show. Hope
Yeah,
to
thanks
see
for
you
having me.
on. Yeah, hope to see you on again. And you've been listening to Literary Lark. Until next time.